Alright, welcome back everyone, Josh on this one. So we're going to discuss the Boolean modifier. So most of you know how the Boolean modifier works, but we'll still do a pretty quick overview to get everyone accustomed just in case. So if I add in a cube here, and I add in another cube, I'll just duplicate this one with Shift D, scale it down, and move it over. You can actually slice objects out of a base object, kind of like this. So if you took this and basically use this as a slicer from this cube, then the area that's being shared by the two would be removed. So if I select the base object, we'll go to the modifier panel, choose Boolean, and then pick this one as the difference. You're going to see that you can kind of see the outline. If I undo and redo, you can see it's actually getting cut out. Now what you either have to do is you have to change this to the wire view here under viewport display. You change this to either wire, or you could do bounds as well, and then you'll be able to see the cut. Or if you want to go destructive, you can apply this and then that geometry will be locked in. But if you don't apply that, then obviously it'll be non-destructive, meaning you won't have access to the geo, but you'll be able to move this at any point in time. Now everyone has their own unique approach, and it's unfair to say which way is best for every situation because it's really subjective and depends what you're doing. But for the most part, I prefer to do it this way, where I have this set to a wired view and I leave it non-destructive so I can change this at any point in time. Now, as you go through modeling, there's of course going to be times you need to go destructive and apply your booleans, but most of the time it's a better idea to just leave it like this and only apply it when you have to. Now you can also do this with any other object really. Perhaps I'll do it with a cylinder, so I'll add in a cylinder. Make sure that's at 32 or 64, whatever you want to put the vertex count at. I'll leave it at 32. Scale it down and then move it up. And then we'll just go to the cube here, and the Boolean's red because we deleted that original Boolean cut, but we can just choose a new one here. Pick the cylinder, and then if we change this to wired view, you're going to see that we have a pretty nice cut here on the top, which we can adjust to our liking. The issue with Booleans and curved surfaces is that they produce the stepping issue, meaning you can see these little ridges in the mesh here. So obviously to fix that, you can simply smooth out the object. So if I right click and then shade smooth, the shading is going to go crazy, but in the auto smooth video you already understood why this is and how to fix it. So we simply need to turn on auto smooth, and that default 30-degree angle will be just fine. But you're going to also notice that the inside unfortunately didn't get captured by the smoothing, and that's because we also need to shade smooth our cutter object. If we select it and then shade it smooth, that will be fixed. Now you don't have to enable auto smooth for your cutter objects. I just usually like to for good measure. It's not going to make a difference in this case, but it's always good to turn on auto smooth because you're pretty much always going to use it. And that's basically how you can clean up ridges on curved surfaces that you use as a Boolean cutout. Now obviously it's really tedious to have to go to your base object, add a Boolean modifier, pick your Boolean object, and then go to the Boolean object and then switch that to bounds view and then smooth everything out. That's a ton of different steps, and if you have a lot of Boolean cuts, that can simply take you forever. And we can demonstrate this in just one swift go. I'm just going to start from scratch. We'll delete the cutter, delete the Boolean, and we just have a simple cube. And I'll also shade it back flat and turn off auto smooth. So we're just completely reset back to the default cube. So if I were to do this the vanilla way, I'd have to go in, add the cutter, maybe we'll do a cylinder, put it into the place, whatever place I want to add it in, and then I'd have to go to the cube, add a Boolean modifier, pick this guy, then go to the cutter, change it to bounds, and then smooth this out, turn on auto smooth, and then smooth this guy out. That is a ton of different steps all to get one cut, and when you do a lot of hard surface modeling, you're going to have hundreds of cuts, so you can see how tedious this could get after a while. And this is where add-ons like HardOps and Box Cutter come into play because it does all of this in one swift motion. Let me demonstrate. So I'll just delete everything out of the scene. We'll start from scratch. So you just saw the process that I needed to go through to get a cylindrical cut in the top. No fun at all. But if I use the Box Cutter add-on, let me turn it on here, we have the circle option. I can literally go in here, I can turn on snapping, hold control, check this out. Done. One click, it did everything. It changed the view, it smoothed everything out, it applied the Boolean, it did everything we need to do, but saved us a ton of time. And another thing that's nice about Box Cutter is that it also hides your cutter once you're done with it, which you can quickly access in hops via mod scroll. So you can always get back to that whenever you need to. So it simply makes no sense to continue on the vanilla route if you're already accustomed. So once you're familiar with vanilla Blender, it's definitely a good idea to grab an add-on like Hardops or Box Cutter to speed these processes up. Now we also have different Boolean options, which I can quickly demonstrate. Most of you probably know what it is. So I'll do it in vanilla. So say I add in another cube here. We'll add a Boolean. So we have two more operations here. We have intersect and we have union. So intersect is going to take the common area between the two objects, whatever is being shared. So basically in here, you'll see in a second. So if I change this to intersect and then choose this guy, you're going to see we get that common area there. So that's what intersect does. And then union simply fuses the two together. If I change that to union, this fuses the two together like this. And I also have a video on my YouTube about the different Boolean operations if you want to watch more into that, but they're pretty obvious as to what they do. Now there are actually several more Boolean operations that you can't see in here. And the trick to get those is to use a combination of Booleans between the cutter and the base mesh with various different operations. Usually this can get very complex really quick, and I don't even know how to do most of them in vanilla Blender. So this is where add-ons come in handy because of how tedious some of these different Boolean operations can be. Let me demonstrate. So with the box cutter add-on, I'm going to choose box and then cut through. So I can cut through, and by default it gives you a difference Boolean, but there's also a ton of different operations that you have access to. One of them is the slice operation. If we go through here, this basically slices the object like that. This is good to get nice visible seams and little bevels in between areas. I use this one most of the time when I'm doing hard surface. You also have another one here. If I undo this, you also have the inset Boolean. This is another one of my favorites. This one's actually super complex to do in vanilla. I would not even recommend doing it, but fortunately with box cutter we can just do it in one go. So I'm just going to cut through here, and you can see exactly what that does. So on the base mesh it adds in a simple difference Boolean, but if we bring the cutter back in, what we also have here is a solidify and another Boolean with intersect, and you can see that it does all of this for us. We don't have to deal with adding in a bunch of different Booleans in vanilla Blender. And we can also adjust the inset operation here with the solidify modifier, as you can see. So this is a very useful tool to use in box cutter that you don't really have available to you in vanilla without a ton of work. Let's see what else we have. We'll just undo this, bring it back to where it was. Now we also have the join. This is just a union. We have the knife, which basically just cuts a knife. And then we also have extract, which is a little bit more advanced with the box cutter. It allows you to take custom shapes as Booleans. We won't get into that. So yeah, by default in Blender, you have the difference Boolean, the intersect bool, and the union Boolean. But if you have add-ons, you can actually get other Booleans such as inset, outset, and slicing. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail with those. Those are just ones you have to experiment with. And also, by the way, if you don't have Hardops or box cutter, you can easily substitute this with the bool tool add-on. There is just way less functionality with bool tools, so I would only really use this until you're able to get the add-ons. So that's also another option that kind of helps do everything automatically for you. Anyways, I think we discussed everything with the Boolean modifier. It basically allows you to cut shapes, join shapes, and take similar areas between two shapes. And Booleans are a fundamental operation in hard surface modeling, so make sure you get accustomed to using them.